You know, they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
Ele deu nothing. Ele deu nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, ele deu nothing. Ele deu fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube, obviously podcast form, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe. If you're listening on playback, you will probably notice that the titles changed and everything because we literally had massive breaking news. 16 minutes before showtime. So even though if you're just coming on, if you're maybe not on Twitter, if you're not on boxing Twitter, it's okay. We do have some major breaking news coming out per Keith Idek. Let's just get right to it because, again, I'm at the Hipster Hunter. Find me on Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms. Call in 323-870-4051. All that YouTube shit out of the way. I got to do it for my boy Rob, man. Shout out to DAZN for making a big move. Definitely a move that seemed possible, but still unlikely, but yet they did it, man. Per Keith Idek of Boxing Scene saying, breaking, I've been informed DAZN has landed the rights to stream the Canelo Alvarez Rocky Fielding fight on December 15th from MSG. An announcement will be made at a press conference, blah, 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 blah. And on top of that, also, good old Keith saying, been told too, that this isn't just a one-fight deal between Canelo and DAZN USA. So, ladies and gentlemen, we now have, official. Canelo Alvarez is a DAZN fighter, Golden DAZN, or whatever they were calling it. I forget what the nickname was on Twitter. But it's seemingly official. When we were talking about them poaching, PBC fighters, like the Charlo brothers, Earl Spence, Adrian Broner, Mike Garcia, guys like that, we have to be honest here. None of them are of the star power of Canelo. It is massive. Like, Canelo is now a DAZN fighter. It's not a one-off, which even when I was talking about it, I think on its last show with Rob, or maybe it was a championship round or something like that, and we're talking about this, I stated, even if they get Canelo, it's probably going to be a one-off. And no, it's a multi-fight deal on DAZN. A basically completely new streaming app in the public zeitgeist is now featuring in terms of active. Obviously, we have Mayweather wanting to, come back and all that stuff. But let's be honest here. Canelo is the guy. Canelo is the biggest pay-per-view or just boxing star in the sport. And a relatively very new, unknown streaming platform picked him up. God knows what they paid him, but definitely massive, massive news. salute to, obviously, DAZN. They deserve it. I don't think anyone was expecting this. And if you're listening maybe on podcast form, you don't maybe understand how awesome this news is. Because obviously we have a resident Eddie Hearn and DAZN troll, Bayside Box in the chat. Salute to Bayside. It's always fun. He is having a meltdown in our live chat, and it is absolutely entertaining. Salute to just all of it. All the shenanigans. And to quote the Eddie Hearn,
I'm gonna make you a star, motherfucker.
Yep. He makes stars. He'll make you a star, motherfucker. And, now it's going to be kind of the reverse. Canelo's going to make DAZN the star. And definitely now a huge player in the sport. It has to be. God knows that this is now a 3-fight deal. But it's definitely massive. And, Keith Idec is one of the most premier and respectable journalists in the sport. He just is. If he is being told this, I respect, his sort of story, his sources. It is definitely him. I definitely believe him. He's definitely one of those guys that you don't really question when it comes to this. Again, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue to discuss Canelo now being a DAZN fighter. Canelo versus Rocky Fielding. Obviously a tune-up, but still, it's Canelo Alvarez. And even when superstars take tune-ups, they're still big fights. And this is still a gigantic, seismic shift in the landscape of the sport. You cannot deny it. There will be ramifications from this. You will definitely see other middleweights look to try to be on DAZN. That is definitely going to be an interesting sort of domino effect. We already sort of have an inkling of Daniel Jacobs obviously being connected to Matchroom, being promoted by them after his HBO run is over at the end of this year against Derevchenko. He's going to move over to DAZN. That makes sense. But guys like Charlo, Demetrius Andrade already on DAZN. Guys like Charlo, Triple G, other guys that are players in this division, where they go now? Are they going to start looking, towards DAZN as the paycheck only because Canelo is there? Let's be completely honest. But we're going to move over to some other news of the day. Dmitry Bivol now being confirmed to fight Jean Pascal. Definitely surprising. Because, we first reported, I think it was yesterday, or I reported maybe a month ago, about Joe Smith Jr. fighting Dmitry Bivol, but now obviously him being linked now to Artur Beterbiev. That's off the table. Dmitry Bivol was then reported to be in talks and negotiations to fight Callum Smith. And now we have Jean Pascal, which is now being confirmed by Steve Kim for HBO in one of their last events. I'm not really hyped on this fight. I have seen some sort of defend it. However, it's definitely a notable name. So that's why I think people are defending it. Because Jean Pascal, even though he is definitely way past his prime, defeating Steve Bosse, who was a enforcer in the NHL, and then became a journeyman MMA fighter who was knocked out a bunch of times. Knocking him out doesn't really impress me. That doesn't make me think that you can go and be competitive with Dmitry Bivol at this point in 2018. However, Jean Pascal is still a name that we all know in the division. If you're a boxing fan and you watch boxing, with any sort of habitual sense, Jean Pascal is somebody that you know. That I think is why people are defending it, even though it really shouldn't need defending. This is just a tune-up. I get it. Bivol's been active. This is his 4th fight this year. However, it's Jean Pascal. Even Isaac Chilemba is a far and away a better opponent than Jean Pascal, I would say. Let's move over to some more news. Top Rank having some just overall fight announcements or discussions being had. Bob Arum going on the boxing beat with Dan Rayfield, obviously, because ESPN affiliated. But one quote I just want to read that's funny because he talks about the winner of Alex Saucedo versus Maurice Hooker. Obviously, if it is Saucedo, a top-ranked fighter at the 140-pound division. And obviously them promoting as well Jose Ramirez. He talks about them unifying their titles. And Bob Arum specifically says, definitely. And by the future, I mean sometime before the end of next year, not a lot of marinating. We don't marinate anymore. We're out of that business. And I'm just, salute to Bob Arum, man. Always playing the con game, and I love it. It's great. We're out of that business. But he talks about Isaac Dabe and a long-term contract with the top rank. I like that. On top of that, Gilberto Ramirez and Jose Uzcategui is down. In terms of not in the works, because obviously Uzcategui versus Caleb Plant it needs to happen first on Showtime or Fox, and then obviously as well. Gilberto Ramirez is fighting Jesse Hart in a rematch. He sort of predicts the winners of those will fight each other on ESPN. I would love that fight. Uzcategui versus Gilberto Ramirez makes a ton of sense. Definitely one of the fights to make in the super middleweight division, in my opinion. I really wanted Cameron to be on because our new co-host was not available to come on. I wanted to talk about this Kell Brook, not really news, but like the idea that he's fighting December. Khan is not fighting Pacquiao, obviously, and sort of the idea that all the roadblocks for a Kell Brook and Amir Khan fight are gone, and that somehow we're gonna magically get the matchup we've been wanting for. I wanted Cam's perspective on this, but he's not here, unfortunately. So we'll move on. Oh, Cam. Saying, yeah, I am just jumping on. Oh, Cam, hurry up, man. Whenever you get on, just talk about Kell Brook shit. Jaime Munguia, basically 100% coming back in December and on that MSG card. Most likely going to face Takeshi Inoue, which not the greatest fight, but definitely going to be an all-action fight. Takeshi Inoue and Jaime Munguia are both come forward aggressive volume punchers. I'm cool with him taking these sort of fights. He's a young guy. We've seen obvious technical flaws with boxers like Liam Smith, who are highly fundamental and methodical, work good game plans. Inoue is not going to do that against Munguia. He's going to be like Kamagai, that sort of ilk of Japanese boxers, and that in of itself is going to produce great action. So I'm 100% okay with that. Man, shout out to Cam, man. Just taking forever. I'm professional. I'm just joking, man. What else do I want to get to? I want to wait for the Eddie Alvarez one championship announcement for Cam as well. So I'll sort of stitch back to the Canelo stuff. I want to go back on that slightly. Not go back on it, but I just want to stitch back to some of my points about it. I've seen a lot of people, shout out to Bayside, #meltdown. Obviously you go to the sticking point, Cam's back on. Well, let me just finish this sentence up, then go to Cam. I've seen a lot of people obviously use the fact that this is not a good matchup against DAZN and Canelo in some fashion. But if this fight was on ESPN or Fox, no one would be complaining. Let's be completely honest. I think it's because it's the new kid on the block in a way that you have a lot of U.S. fans pushing back on it in a way. Ron saying Blog Talk is acting weird. I'll try to fix that. Maybe. It's going to be tough for me to do that, but I'll try. Cam, what's up, man?
What's going on, man? Sorry for the lateness. I don't know. I can hear myself somewhere.
You can hear yourself?
I could hear myself. It's gone now. Don't worry. Yeah, sorry, man, for the lateness. Man's got to eat. You know what I mean? I had to eat.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm here, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, I was in a bit of a rush. Obviously, I wanted to be on the show. So, yeah, we're here now. So.
Perfect, Cam. Well, obviously, we had breaking news. Right before Showtime, which is the Canelo DAZN announcement. obviously want your take on that. Is it a big, gigantic move, as I have sort of laid out, or do you think it's maybe smaller than what maybe I think or others are thinking?
Well, obviously I've been out. So is this like news over the last sort of few hours? It's come out.
It came out 30 minutes ago.
Right, yeah, I've only just got back, so I've not really checked social media and that. So what's going on then?
So per Keith Idek of Boxing Scene, Rocky Fielding and Canelo will be the first of a multi-fight deal between Canelo and DAZN.
Oh wow, yeah, that for me that is big. I mean, I was kind of expecting Canelo to go to ESPN. I was pretty confident about that. I didn't think the DAZN. I mean, look, I think the fact that he's fighting Fielding kind of says a lot. Obviously, that's the first fight. I think it's good. I think it's very good. I think we've been speaking about how Eddie Hearn and Matchroom have kind of, from what they've done so far with the DAZN and who they've signed, it's not been amazing. The first card wasn't that good. Now they've got Canelo. I feel like, to some extent, I think the fact they've got Canelo will probably give other fighters sort of that interest to maybe jump over to DAZN. The fact that they've got Canelo there, especially fighters around that weight class. So I feel like in many different ways it's beneficial for them, especially with the money. It gives DAZN a lot of credibility and a big star there, the biggest star in the sport. So for me, very good. They got Canelo. Obviously, they got Joshua as well. DAZN are making moves. I think it's a good move, man. I'm kind of a bit surprised. I thought Canelo would go to ESPN. I was pretty sure about that. I've said this numerous times. But Canelo would go to ESPN. I think maybe Golovkin would be more likely to go to DAZN than Canelo. But yeah, I mean, I'm actually happy to see it because I think it's fresh, and I think DAZN could pick up a few more bigger names on the back of this as well.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a domino piece. And plus, like, even if obviously they're probably paying him a lot for a multi-fight deal, like I sort of guessed what they're paying him is probably insane to think about because there's no pay-per-view upside in a way. Like, that money's taken away in this deal, so they have to pay him probably a lot guaranteed per fight. However, even as a loss leader, he is huge for a new entity like DAZN, and plus having the huge sort of Mexican-American demographic to tap into now with Canelo, they will pay $10 to have DAZN and have that app. And plus, with programming like Combates Americas, which is a obviously lower level MMA promotion, which is pretty much exclusively Latin fighters and Spanish fighters, there is some sort of, correlation in terms of content that they already have for the Mexican-American market. I think it's just a great move all around. And plus, it's Canelo. He's the biggest star in the sport, minus Mayweather and maybe McGregor in all of combat sports. It's really, those three. And, like you said, the domino effect. We could see maybe the Charlos look into trying to get on DAZN. Triple G, I think, is much more likely to be on DAZN than he already was because Canelo's attached to DAZN. ESPN must be looking at themselves like they missed out on a huge opportunity. They have the Ryota Moreta fight coming up this week on ESPN Plus. That's one of their huge middleweight fixtures on Top Rank, obviously. But now he's on the other side of the block, and it's just gonna be interesting to see. Again, like you said, the effects, the ramifications of a Canelo pickup because it is Canelo. Naturally, you're gonna have fighters in his weight range trying to get on the same network as him to want to fight him. There's a reason Daniel Jacobs went to HBO. It's because Triple G and Canelo were over there. If Canelo and Triple G are over on DAZN, do we see Jacobs, Charlo, and others start moving that way? Anything else, Cameron, on Canelo moving over to DAZN?
No, I mean, I'm just looking on Twitter now. I'm just looking at some of the people's comments on it down my Twitter feed, and a lot of people seem to be quite, well, just like me, probably just like you, quite more surprised than anything. But it's more pleasantly surprised. A lot of British fans as well. I think it's a good move. I'm actually, I gave Hearn credit on last night on Twitter for the Beterbiev fight and how he signed him and he's got him active, and it's another good move. I think Hearn's making moves now. I think Hearn gets a lot of hate, especially in the UK. I've criticised him in the past, but when it's needed, but I'll also give him credit where it's due. And, you know, the DAZN are starting to look more attractive as the time goes on, especially with this arrival. So I think it's going to be big business for DAZN off the back of this, especially that monopoly effect, like you said.
Agreed. And, obviously, it doesn't mean for much, but like, let's look at this last weekend, for example, in the U.S. side of it. Of the 5 fight cards in all of combat sports you could watch, 4 of them were on DAZN. Even though those 4 were relatively smaller events, all for hardcores, but again, you can be that product. You can be a product for hardcores. You can be a product for a niche market within a niche market and still be successful. But on top of that, now that you have Canelo, you reach an entire different demographic of people. The type of people that will just sit and watch Sunday football or NBA playoffs or MLB playoffs, those sort of casual sporting fans, they watch Canelo Triple G. They watch both of those fights, and they have some feelings about Canelo. So because of that polarization effect as well, they're going to want to see what happens with them on DAZN. I'm not expecting them to do 1 million subscribers on that fight night, but it's going to be huge for them. It's going to be a massive shift in their bottom line, 100%. And I agree. I think the overall consensus is very positive for DAZN from the fan base right now. Is that we all know it's a big pickup. It is Canelo. He is the guy doing 1 million pay-per-view buy rates in the U.S. Moving on, sort of just to relap some of the things I've discussed, sort of to get your take on it. Dmitry Bivol versus Jean Pascal being confirmed for HBO. I'm not hyped on the fight at all, to be quite honest. I think Jean Pascal is way past his prime. I think beating Steven Bossé means nothing to me. The only good thing about this, it's Bivol being active. And that's the only positive I can really take away.
Yeah, I was kind of I tweeted about this earlier on. If you kind of look at the situation, you got all the champions tied up, so there's no unifications out there for him. You've got Gvozdyk fighting Stevenson, you've got Joe Smith fighting Beterbiev, and you got Kovalev in a rematch of Alvarez. So realistically, there's not much out. He's already beat Barrera. Right now, there's not really much out there for him for a potential fight at the end of the year. So Pascal, I'm not counting his last fight against that 1-0 fighter. The one before that, he fought an undefeated prospect, and he was in there to lose. Like, they're looking to build him up. He looked good in that fight. Not sure whether it was Pascal, kind of rolling back the times and the clock a bit, or whether it was just the fact that guy wasn't that good. Maybe a bit of both. But I feel like Pascal, he's past his best days. There's no question about that. We've seen it. It's there in front of you. But in a weird way, I'm not too disappointed in this fight. Simply because of the fact that there's not much out there for Bivol currently in terms of what's out there for his next fight. So on that sense, I'm not okay. Look, Pascal, it's not that bad. He's a name. It's going to give Bivol more recognition, especially in Canada with the market. And else is being used as a name to build up Bivol. That's what this is. Let's hope Pascal can make a run of it. Let's hope Pascal can do something in there to make Bivol think about it. But now it should be Bivol's expected to win. So, but no, I'm not that disappointed.
I'll be honest. I don't want Pascal to be competitive in this fight. That would make me actually concerned about Bivol in terms of like ceiling, potential. Because I'll be honest, I'm not gonna say I'm not hyped on any of these young light heavyweights like Bivol and Beterbiev, but they're not. Like, I don't get the sense from them that I get from, like, let's say Crawford on his come up, or Inoue on his come up, or even Lomachenko after like the Salido fight. I don't get that same sort of like, wow, like these guys could be greats, or even like a Usyk. I don't get that vibe from Bivol and Beterbiev. I don't see that from them. So if Bivol came out here and trash Pascal, that would go a long way to sort of, I think, discounting my criticisms of Dmitry Bivol, because I think out of the young guys, he may have the best shot at being the great guy in that division. But still, if he's competitive with the 2018 version of Jean Pascal, I might fall back to that criticism of saying, well, maybe Bivol isn't the next great thing since sliced bread. Like some fans are making him out to be, some media are making him out to be. he needs to trash Pascal here. He needs to knock him out here within I would say 7 rounds, and make it look dominant up until that point as well. For me to really be okay with it. You know, when you are taking a tune-up in a showcase, it should look like a tune-up in showcase. And there's a reason why people, the fight last weekend we were talking about, people criticizing Terrence Crawford with his performance against Jose Benavidez. Obviously, there's more context and nuance to that fight than I would say this one. However, there's a point to that where if you're taking a consensus tune-up fight, it should look like a tune-up. It shouldn't look like a competitive, high-level world title fight. It should look like a world-level guy trashing someone that isn't world level. That's really my only difference of opinion, I would say, than you on this. Because otherwise, I agree. I mean, Pascal is still a name. He's still a relative commodity for the division. Bivol is staying active. I'm always in favor of that. And plus, we know that this sort of last HBO run is just sort of like extra fights. Like, it's nothing that's leading to something. There's no grand arching narrative on HBO about where these guys are going. These are just the last fights on their contract, and then they're going to go on to other stuff that's more important, in my opinion.
Yeah, also, I've kind of got to be a bit generous, simply because of the fact that I'm actually interviewing Jean Pascal later this week, so I can't really say anything, you know. I just kind of got to be wary about that.
Hey, Jean Pascal's a very nice guy. I met him. He's a very nice guy, but man, if he does not get knocked out here early, I'm going to be very upset.
I mean, I've interviewed him before. He's given me time before, so I'm like, no, I've got a soft spot for Jean Pascal. I hope he does well.
Yeah, I definitely understand that, man. I don't want to see tune-ups just look better than what they are. It always makes me upset. But anyways, digressing from that, I want to get your take on, because I've had this sinking feeling that, obviously before Manny Pacquiao signed with Al Heyman, it was going to be Pacquiao versus Khan. That got obviously scrapped. And then it sort of was in the media about Brooke and Khan fighting late this year. And it sort of died down a bit. But now it's picking back up with Kell Brooks saying that he wants to fight in December. He wants to fight Amir Khan. Obviously, you're from the UK. I want to get your perspective on Brooke versus Khan, the legitimacy to the possibility of it. Does it happen? Your thoughts on it overall. Cam.
Yeah, sorry, I broke up there. I saw an interview with Hearn saying that they've agreed on the Brooke and Khan have agreed on the weight, but it's a rehydration clause they've not agreed on. I feel like that's gonna be a big issue. I've always kind of felt that Khan's been the one that doesn't want this fight. I've always thought that Brooke wants it more, simply because of the fact I think Khan's always been the one who's had more to lose, and I feel like, especially in terms of name and star power, and he's always been recognised really as the number one welterweight in Britain, despite what Kell Brook done support us. So to a lot of people, especially the casual fans, he's the most known worldwide and in Britain. So I think it's at a point now where Khan's got nowhere else to go, and I think he's just going to try everything he can to get as many advantages as he can. And I think this rehydration clause is going to be one of them. I'm not too sure what they're going to do. I mean, Brooke is going to have a torrid time making 147. He always has done, even more now. But the fact he's going to have to do rehydration clause of 154 pounds on fight day, he's only be able to put 10 pounds on for the next day. I mean, that's just horrendous. This guy is going to be blowing up overnight. He always does. He's in the 170s on fight night. So I just can't get hyped for this fight, the idea of this fight. I think it's going to be one of those fights where I think, right, once these guys in the ring, that's when I think, all right, let's get interested. But it's been drawn up for so long. I don't know. Like, when I talk about it, I don't get that feeling, you know what I mean, of excitement of this fight. When they talk about how negotiations are going on about this fight, I can't get hyped for it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a Mayweather Pacquiao thing for Britain, and in that sense, it's just I just struggle to get into it.
I agree. Even as I'm a Kell Brook fan. Like, I've always liked him, especially since the Sean Porter fight. I've always really thought highly of him. And even Amir Khan, like I think people really discount like what Amir Khan has done in the sport. Like he has some really great wins that no one remembers because of his losses, unfortunately. But you're right. Like this fight has passed its expiration date in a lot of ways. But I think for the casuals, like that expiration date doesn't exist, unfortunately. I think it may exist for some hardcores. But from what we've seen from, Mayweather, Pacquiao, once that fight, that matchup, transcends the sport bubble in a way and our sort of bubble as fans and, mom and pop starts talking about it, it's always going to be in their public consciousness. So in that way, they can always fall back to it at any point. That's why anytime when Mayweather-Pacquiao rematch came up when they met in Japan, that took off everywhere on in terms of media and even social media in terms of fans. Everyone was talking about it. That's because it's captured the public consciousness. So once it's done that, it always will. I think Brooke Khan has done that, especially in the UK, obviously. But overall, just in boxing mind, like the overall boxing fandom, we've wanted that fight for a very long time. It seemed like such a perfect fight for years. And it just doesn't seem it's either going to happen relatively soon and all of a sudden, because we're in a run of just great fights happening, I feel like, and just matchups happening that are pretty good. It wouldn't surprise me. However, speaking of something that is not surprising as well, Eddie Alvarez, switching over to MMA, Eddie Alvarez leaving the UFC, going to one championship, signing a multi-fight deal. Definitely seemed like the common sense move for Eddie if he wasn't going to go to Bellator, which came out maybe a few weeks ago from Scott Coker. And it seemed like he was not going to stay at the UFC. One championship made a lot of sense. You have a rematch with Shana Aoki over there, which makes perfect sense. What do you think about Eddie Alvarez leaving the UFC and moving over to one championship?
I think obviously he's getting paid. One championship. It's the same. Screwing.
Man, Cam, you are cutting out big time. Big time. I'm guaranteing you're not connected. I'm guaranteeing you're not connected via Ethernet cable, and that's okay. Maybe leave and come back. That sometimes helps if you're just connected via Wi-Fi. But you're cutting out pretty bad.
Am I back now? Yeah.
That sounds better.
Yeah, so I think it's just my Wi-Fi's been playing up a little bit tonight. But what I was saying was Askren. It's the same with Askren. He went to one FC, got paid well, but he was fighting poor opposition. I think Alvarez can get paid well. I think the fact the UFC just kind of didn't let him go. I think the division's so stacked. I just think they didn't want to pay. They didn't feel like they had to pay the money for Alvarez, which for me is probably why. Mm-hmm. Somebody that I follow on Twitter, a guy called James Goyder, he covers the one championship in Thailand. He thinks that Askren might be tempted to come back to fight Alvarez, and I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. I know the Aoki rematch, the trilogy I wouldn't mind seeing that. There's a lot of good fights for him, but I kind of like the idea of Alvarez fighting Askren, because I think Askren's, he's not fought a notable name apart from Lima and Koreshkov. Koreshkov was young. Good wins for Askren. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight Alvarez. I think if Alvarez can go in there and fight Askren, then I think that that'd be one of his best wins, because a lot of people think Askren is worthy of being in the UFC. So I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. I think Alvarez, for me, it's a good move. It's fresh. I mean, you look at the belts he's won. If he wins that one championship belt, he's going to have a stack full of belts. I mean, this guy is exciting to watch. He's always going to be in exciting fights. And I think a lot of UFC fans will watch Alvarez regardless of where he goes, because of the fact his style is so fan-friendly and things. So I think it's a good move for Alvarez. He can get paid well. He's been fighting forever. Mm-hmm. So, hopefully he can make some good money and, have some success over there. So
I agree. I think Eddie is the type of guy that he's always put money over, not legacy. That's the bad sort of, term, but because he has a great legacy. Eddie Alvarez is a top 5 lightweight of all time, easily. And like you said, he's belt hunted every promotion he's gone to, from Shudo to Bellator to, I think he was in Bodog. Like, Eddie Alvarez has gone to basically every promotional company in the world that you can go to. and has won a belt, including the UFC. So he's been at the very, very top. And obviously he's towards the end of his career as well. I don't see him lasting another 5 years. So take the money. One Championship is offering a ton of money to their sort of big name marquee fighters. And plus, you can get a lot of viewership over at One Championship. I think the last event totaled like 48 million viewers or something like that. It's an insane amount. I remember the event before their prelims on Twitter, just their Twitter live stream of their prelims did like 12 million views. So you're still going to get viewed by an insane amount of people just from another side of the world, and plus one that he's always had an affinity to. Eddie Alvarez has always sort of made Japanese MMA or Asian MMA like his home. So I'm fully on board with it, especially, sort of the aging fighter going and collecting the bag. Salute to him. Stitching back a little bit to, obviously, the DAZN Canelo news, because that's just a ever-evolving news story because it is, breaking. Per Steve Kim, it is not just for Canelo. Per him, the entire Golden Boy stable is going over to DAZN. So that includes guys like Angel Tito Acosta, who is co-promoted by Miguel Cotto and Golden Boy Promotions. Guys like Ryan Garcia and the likes. That's a big move for DAZN to pick up Golden Boy stable. Even though Golden Boy stable is not the biggest stable in the world, it's a mega move because you have maybe a future name like Ryan Garcia, the lighter weight class guy like Angel Acosta, and obviously the big name in Canelo, and then obviously just that Golden Boy name. Casual fans know Golden Boy, they know Oscar. That does help on some level.
Yeah, you got David Lemieux in there as well. You got some good guys in there from Golden Boy. I think this is good. This is good. We spoke a lot like how the politics side of boxing gets in the way of good fights happening, fights we want to see. The DAZN are picking up all these guys now, and we've got the likes of Andrade, Jacobs. We look at the middleweight scene. We've got lots of Andrade, Jacobs, Derevchenko. I'm sure will be part of DAZN regardless of the result. You got Canelo there now. You got a lot of these guys. All David Lemieux. The DAZN are picking up a lot of these top middleweights, and this is what I think. Jamal Charlo may be one. I think I'd be surprised if he didn't move at some point, because if he wants these big fights, the DAZN looks like they're going to be where it's at for the middleweight division. And look at Golovkin, like you said earlier. I think Golovkin could still end up on DAZN.
Yeah.
You'd have to, because Loeffler about a good relationship in the past. They've done a lot.
Cam, you're cutting out there. You're cutting out. You're cutting out, Cam. It's okay, Cam. No, you are not all right. You are not all right. Literally, Cam, this does help sometimes. Just exit the chat and come back. Oh yeah,
I'll do that.
Just do that very quickly. It does help. And I'll sort of reiterate what I think you were saying. Because of these big, middleweight, chess pieces on the board now being on DAZN, or what it looks like to be on DAZN, Canelo, Andrade, Lemieux, seemingly Jacobs. If you're Charlo and sort of that odd man out, do you leave the Fox money that's on the table, the Showtime money that's on the table? Because that's the position you're in. You're sort of, in between a rock and a tough spot here, because Fox in 2019 is going to be all in on boxing. That's a mega platform for you, plus all the money they're putting into PBC. You could be a real massive fixture to their programming, in my opinion, if you're Jamal Charlo. Or at least that's in your calculations. If you're trying to figure out what's next for your career, you're thinking, I got to see where this Fox thing leads. So I don't think Charlo jumps ship anytime soon. I think he's going to wait to see how the Fox deal works out for him. And if he's still, let's say, on undercards, he's still co-main eventing guys, still on Showtime and not on Fox, I think he would feel a certain way about it, knowing just the Charlos, how they act, being around them before, being on the receiving end of them being pissed off. I understand how they act and how they maneuver and how they think really well. And I could see them in, let's say, 6 months, 9 months' time if they're still not that massive fixture into the Fox PBC programming, they would feel a certain way and want to leave and go get the big money with Canelo and DAZN. I 100% could see that. But that's still an if. I don't know if they do that. I could still see, if Al Heyman is smart, and I think he is an incredibly smart person, he knows that that is a risk he is taking if he does not put Jermell Charlo as headliners on Fox and promoting them heavily, making them happy. He will lose that big chess piece in the middleweight division, in my opinion. Cam, how you doing?
I'm just going to test out. Can you hear me?
Yes, hold on. Let me turn you down a little bit. There you go.
Yeah, my internet's definitely having issues tonight. If I cut out again, let me know. I'll have to restart it otherwise. I don't know what's going on. It's usually not like this for me, but...
That's okay. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was going to say, just wanted to touch on what I was going to say at the end there. I think Charlo could end up moving to DAZN at some point if he wants to see big fights. So, yeah, that's what I was going to finish off by saying.
So, do you want to add anything else, or think we covered it all?
Yeah, I pretty much. I said a lot before I got cut off anyway. So, yeah.
All right, sound good. That's basically it. We're gonna go out to a caller 415. I wonder what area code that is. 405. Who is this? Where are you calling from? 405. 405. I know we've been having some Blog Talk issues. It looks like it's not working. Shout out to Blog Talk. Again, if you want to call in and Blog Talk is not working, 323-870-4051. You can always email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com, to get a free international permanent call-in link. Even if you are domestic, you can still use that link to call in, and it is absolutely free and pretty easy to do and maneuver if you need any help with it. Again, email me. I'm always there to help any listener out there. But Cam, that's basically it. You know, it's a light day for the show, not a ton of topics. I did see that you put out an article about Nathan Gorman. I want to get sort of your brief thoughts on that, because I also saw an article. Shout out to Boxing Scene, because I know they rip off articles. I don't know if it was ripping off your article, because I didn't read yours. But they were talking about Nathan Gorman calling out Daniel Dubois. Just want to get your take on your article, basically, that I think Boxing Scene ripped off.
When did they put this out?
They put it out I think it was today. I think it was yeah. I want to say it was today, because I saw your article, and then I saw the Boxing Scene article, and it was the random hits, byline. So it's not really an actual person writing it. It's just somebody saying it and copying somebody else's work. So I'm like, huh.
Well, be interesting. I'll tell you what, if that's mine, I'll be having some serious words of Boxing Scene. I'll tell you that. I'll be checking this out.
Yeah, I'm just saying, go check it out. It's allegedly your article on Boxing Scene.
Listen.
But yeah, let me know about Nathan Gorman. Tell me how the article was. Tell me how the interview was.
Yeah, just a quick note. I will be checking that out if it is mine. I hope Boxing Scene will be crediting me very wisely.
They didn't, by the way.
Right, I'll checking that out as soon as this show ends. By the way, somebody that I know is actually wanting to call into the show right now.
Okay.
From the UK. So I said he's listening now to the show. So if you want to kind of mention that on how they can do it, I know you can put that link and stuff.
It's the same link you have, Cam, because I don't have a separate link for you yet. So if you want, just forward the link that I sent you to your friend, and then call in. No problem.
Oh, I'll do that now. But yeah, let me just send that over. But yeah, basically on the internet, on the interview, Nathan Gorman, I'm sure a few people have seen him and heard of him. He's on undefeated heavyweight, 13-0. Basically, I did an interview about him about the whole Dubois situation. He went into depth about how, because a lot of people have kind of come across and spoke about his rivalry with Dubois, and I really want to get an insight into where it came from the start. And we kind of spoke about, told me about how, he lived with him in the same flat for a while as an amateur, and they sparred 200 rounds, and he mentioned a lot to me about it. And we spoke about everything involved with his career, his relationship with Tyson Fury and his trainer Ricky Hatton. It was a really good interview, and I posted on my Twitter. So if you want to check that out, follow me on Twitter, _, or if you want, I can just always post a link in the comment section on the show afterwards if you want to check it out if you ain't got Twitter. So
yes, I believe it's here I have it on the screen on YouTube, I believe. Exclusive, Nathan Gorman discusses long history with Daniel Dubois, wants to fight him in 2019.
Yeah.
Yep. Go check it out. Awesome stuff. And it does, I don't have the boxing scene article up right now, but it does look a lot like your quotes that they took.
Trust me, I'm looking right now. I'm just going on the website right now.
While you look, let's go to a caller, 937. 937, who is this? Where are you calling from? 937. 937, man. Sorry, Blog Talk. It's not working. It's rather unfortunate. Eric Rosas in the chat saying Gorman is Andy Ruiz Jr. on steroids. LOL. That's a good one. I like that comparison. But yeah, shout out to Boxing Scene. Good for them, man. Got to get those clicks, man. But anyways, Cam, I don't know if do you want me to wait for your friend? I have no issue waiting. If you want me to.
Yeah, he's just literally logging on now.
Perfect.
I think that's him now on the call,
Yep.
actually.
Yes. Person, I don't know your name. Sorry, I didn't see your name. Hamed, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How's it going, guys?
Good. How's your day going?
Yeah, first time call. I wasn't
Salute.
aware of the show. I do podcasts with Cameron, and he was telling me about the show. But it used to be on. Is it the Boxing Voice?
Yes. I used to be on the Boxing Voice.
Yeah, I was just listening. I like the sound of the show. I just thought I'd call in. Is the Batubiev Joe Smith fight official?
No, it's not 100% official yet. From the reporting that I have seen, it's all but official. Yavon Mitchell has said it's all but official. They're just waiting on a date and network, I believe, but the network is seemingly DAZN. And I think Kathy Duva echoed that they're just waiting on a date.
Yeah, because I put out a tweet earlier on. I said the Batubiev Joe Smith fight is probably a better fight than the Bivol Joe Smith fight. And
Yes, you're right.
would you guys agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Joe Smith Jr. is a top 10 light heavyweight. Like I feel like that's pretty. I mean, that's respectable to say. Like he's a top 10 light heavyweight. Jean Pascal hasn't been a top 15 light heavyweight in about 3 or 4 years. So I feel like that's very accurate. Better believe Joe Smith is a competitive, fun fight. 2 top 10 light heavyweights, and one is a relative tune-up against a faded, old draw in the division.
Yeah, I like the Joe Smith fight because I think Batubiev is still kind of, I wouldn't say unproven, but since the layoff, he hasn't really been too impressive. If I could recall, because I think he fought Coling after a long layoff, and then he knocked him on the 12th round. Then he beat Callum Johnson. I thought the Johnson fight was okay because I think Johnson was a big puncher and he kind of probably took Batubiev by surprise, but Batubiev wasn't that impressive in either of those fights. And against someone like Joe Smith, I think he'll have to be on his A game. I think that's a really good fight. I'm kind of disappointed with Bivol. I think I would have liked to have seen him win with a better fighter than Pascal, but probably I don't think they could have got anyone because I was reading Badu Jack turned down the fight. I think someone saying on Twitter against Bivol. So that's going to be the last fight if I'm correct on HBO then, isn't it, with Bivol and Pascal.
I think it's the last fight. It depends on Jaime Munguia because they've talked about Jaime Munguia being on HBO. And obviously, if he's on the Canelo card, he's not going to be HBO. But if they do make a December HBO event, it's Jaime Munguia. But if it's not that, like you said, it's going to be Bivol versus Jean Pascal as the last HBO event.
Yeah, I think you're right. Also, I've just been on Twitter talking to people about a lot of other stuff, boxing politics and fights. There's a lot of people seem mad about the whole Crawford fight. I don't know. I haven't really been able to go on the podcast because I do a weekly podcast with Sean Bastow on Beyond the Ropes, but I think he hasn't been feeling well. But I haven't been able to talk about the Crawford Spence fight since if they fight down the line, or Crawford Benavidez fight. But I sense a lot of people haven't been giving Crawford credit. I thought Benavidez was a good fighter. I know he's not elite, and he did have like trouble with one of his legs. But if I recall, Benavidez was one of Pacquiao in the Pacquiao camp, one of the main sparring partners, and he was a really good fighter. I know he really lost to, I think it was Mauricio Herrera, but I mean, if you look at Spence's resume at 147 is almost similar or not much better than Crawford's, and Crawford's only had 2 fights at 147. I think Spence is being a bit overhyped. I think Crawford clearly is the best fighter, if not the second best, at least in the world, along with Lomachenko. And I still don't see why people keep saying he's unproven or he hasn't fought anyone. You could only beat who's in front of you. Cleaned out the 140 division. He's won titles in 3 different weight classes. I mean, what more can you do? I think the Pacquiao fight didn't happen. I'm not too sure if Pacquiao's team don't want it, but you can only fight the guys that your promoter is putting in front of you. I think from now on, whoever Crawford fights, his probably career and resume will be judged by, because he's become arguably the best, judged as one of the best fighters in the world right now, because he's built up a stacked resume or career, whatever. The amount of fights he's had on television and showcase fights. I think now they'll have to try and match him up rightly. Like you can't fight the likes of Hank Lundy and guys like that, but at the same time,
well, Ahmed, very quickly, just to add to it or sort of switch it up. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Jose Benavidez was, I think, underrated by a lot of people, including me, and even Cameron talked about this, I think, on Monday's show or yesterday's show. However, just to sort of, think about this, before the fight happened, going into the Jeff Horn fight, and respectively going into the Benavidez fight, what do you think the consensus was? Which fight do you think people thought was going to be the more competitive fight? The Jeff Horn fight or the Benavidez fight?
Jeff Horn, but
okay,
I didn't think...
Hold on, let me just finish this up. Ahmed. Okay, because of that difference, right, we thought the Jeff Horn fight was going to be competitive, and it turned out to be highly dominant. Crawford really pieced him up, and it seemed easy work for Crawford in that fight. So now going into a Benavidez fight where we thought it was going to be an easier fight than his last one, it turned out to be much more competitive. Took him much longer to get him out of there. Do you not see how how fans can come away being more critical of Crawford after this fight? Again, you were right about Benavidez being underrated. Crawford having a really underrated resume as well. You're right on all those points. But I understand. No, you're 100% right. But perception is such a big thing in just sporting or just life overall. Perception is massive. The perception was this fight was supposed to be easy, and it wasn't. The perception of his last fight was supposed to be competitive, and it wasn't. It was easy. That sort of cognitive dissonance between his fights makes it hard for a lot of fans to get a good gauge on Terrence Crawford at welterweight, while Spence has been dominant in the division. Dominant.
You make a really good point, but what I was going to say, I personally thought that the Benavidez fight would probably be a bit more tougher. I didn't obviously think it's going to be as tough as it turned out, because I thought Benavidez was arguably winning the fight after 5 rounds. But just looking at the size difference and the way he matched up, and I just seen clips of him, the way he fought, I thought Benavidez would probably be a tougher fight. I know Horn did officially beat Pacquiao in the fight before, so the way Crawford did a number, I think the expectations got a bit too high, but I agree with what you're saying. I think perception does play into it. I personally still think Spence has got a lot to prove, and same for Spence. He could only beat who's in front of him, but until he fights the likes of Porter, Thurman, Danny Garcia, I think at the moment you can't. I don't even think he's a top 10 pound for pound fighter based on resume. If people want to put him based on skill, then I mean they could do that. But just beating one Cal Brook was damaged goods and coming off a long layoff and surgery, and had a broken eye socket. I don't think that warrants a pound for pound top 10 spot. If you go on those premises, then someone like Anthony Joshua should be in the top 10 because he beat Klitschko, he beat Parker and Povetkin, and I think even though he's a heavyweight, I don't know some people don't like rating heavyweights, but that's a more impressive resume in 22 fights than Spence's, and I think they've had the similar amount of fights. So I think Spence is being slightly overrated by some guys. I still think he's a talent and one for the future. And if you could get the right fights, I think these two could be the top two guys in around that weight class. But at the moment, I think some people need to push the brakes on Spence because I just get the sense that people are just getting jumping ahead of themselves and getting ahead of themselves because I think Crawford's resume is by far much better. He's the more proven fighter out the two.
Again, I really don't disagree with much of what you're saying, but perception's key. Unfortunately, you are only as good as your last fight. That is one of the few sort of sayings we have in this sport that is 100% true when you look at the entire context of the sport's history. You are only as good as your last fight. And unfortunately, Crawford's last fight was supposed to be a tune-up, and it wasn't. It turned out to be a much more competitive fight. Spence's last fight, which was supposed to be a tune-up, was a first-round knockout.
Yeah.
You know, that would just be hard in the public's mind, especially the more casual fans' mind, to take away. They're not going to look at the context and the nuance of their careers, their skills. That doesn't matter. Right now, Crawford was in a fight. It should have been an easy fight, but it was tough. They're going to fall back to that narrative over and over again, and that's fine. Like I always try to preach this to maybe more educated fans or more hardcore fans. You don't have to argue with every casual fan that has a stupid point. You make your point and you move on. If they're not going to see the logic behind it, there's no hope in it. Especially because you're dealing with fanboys, you're dealing with those sort of, groups within the sport. Just ignore them, man. You can move on.
I really ignore. I'm just surprised the amount of people that believe the same rhetoric. Because I'm part of the Ring IQ boxing Facebook page, I see a lot of interaction with people on there, and I see a lot of people sharing the same opinion. Like going forward, I think Spence will probably have a good chance of knocking out Crawford if they fight, because I think Crawford got clipped way too much. I still think Crawford could outbox him and make him look silly for 12 rounds, because I think Spence has got holes in his game as well. I thought he was getting outboxed by Brook at times, even though I think Brook is a very good fighter. But the point is, that fight going forward, I mean, I wouldn't get too mad if someone's saying they think Spence will stop Crawford. I just think there's a difference between picking a prediction and the whole resume and who they've beaten. I just feel like that's kind of being blown out of proportion. But I agree with what you're saying. I think you made some very good points as well.
Yeah. Anything else, Hamed?
Not really. But when do you guys go live? Because
I am
really good.
Sorry, I am live Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. in the UK, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Podcast form on anywhere you can find podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc. All that stuff. Though I haven't updated the podcast in a bit, I need to do that. Still shots at me. But thank you for your call, Hamed. Again, you can always call in. This is the same link, same link that you got for this one. It's the same for every show. So when you want to call in, just come on, and I'll go to you, man. No issue.
Just coming on, Hamed, man. Bless.
Yeah, I'm good friends with Cameron, a good guy, and I never knew about the show. He told me about it a couple of weeks ago, but I forgot what format it was on. I forgot that it's on YouTube. But I appreciate you guys taking the call, and I'll speak to you guys soon.
Take it easy, man. I'll speak to you soon.
Appreciate it, Hamed. Joined by another good friend, also another podcaster, Mr. Ron, the mastermind over at Fighter IQ and my old show, TBV. Ron, how you doing, man? And glad that you were able to call in. I know Blog Talk wasn't working. I do apologize about that. Shout out to shitty Blog Talk. That cost me so much per month. But Ron, how you doing, man?
That's all good. Can you hear me clear?
Yeah, you're fine, man. Obviously, I want your take on the breaking news of Canelo going to DAZN, multi-fight deal, potentially the entire Golden Boy stable going over to DAZN as well. Is it as much of a seismic shift in the sport as I may be saying?
Well, long time ago when this first HBO thing, I thought the most sensible thing for them to obviously was to merge up with Showtime. But if you know the history and all the stuff, like it makes sense why it didn't happen. But I do think this is a huge deal. I mean, you're talking about trying to gather a casual market, you know, by bringing like Canelo to it. You know, obviously as hardcore fans, the most important thing is like the matchups, like what type of fights are we going to get? Are we going to get Canelo, Rocky Fieldings? Are we going to get Canelo with, you know, someone who's not, you know, we want to see? You know, that's going to be the big problem with the hardcores. But for casuals, I mean, Canelo on anything is going to be great. People paid $90 for the pay-per-view. Now you got 9 months of that worth for Canelo and Golden Boy. And now Ryan Garcia, maybe, if it's true. You know, so I'm just questioning what they're going to do with their Facebook platform. Are they going to just cut it, or they're going to put their so-called C-level kind of guys on there, or the guys who have C-level promotion, and then later bring them over to the zone? Because they had a championship fight on Facebook.
They're cutting. Come on, they're cutting that shit so quick. Come on,
yeah.
There's no way Facebook is going to pay them what the zone is paying them.
I agree. Like I said, I'm just speaking in a way of knowledge of I don't know, but I hope they cut that Facebook stuff, fully invest into the zone. You mentioned Combate the other day, or not too long ago. Like they had Serrano.
Yeah, shout
on there.
Yeah, because Amanda Serrano, for those that don't know, I don't think I reported on it. I should have. Amanda Serrano is done with boxing. She's retired from boxing. She's going full time in MMA. She's with Combates Americas on the zone. Shout out to her.
Yeah, so I'm getting this real like Fight Pass kind of feel going on with the zone now, with all these promotion companies, and you know, it makes me wonder what one championship are they going to get a little piece of pie and jump in all this stuff. But either or, that was a good idea when you mentioned Cabante and then Canelo. You know, if basically just based off what appeals to the casual in the market. So I think Canelo going on for $10, you can watch his fights, and then that might turn other people to watch the other apps, and then they might get into the Anthony Joshua. Maybe they go, oh snap, Anthony Joshua, I just saw him over at, you know, on Under Armour or Foot Locker or something, you know, oh snap, you know, I think it's very good for Canelo. I think it's very great.
Oh, as you cut out right there.
Sorry.
Ryan. It's okay.
I got cut out with a call.
Oh,
it's my man. I'm getting cough as well. Everybody's getting cough.
I'm on my phone, so the calls. But I think it's great. You know, Canelo and Golden Boy have something going on, and I wonder if 360 Promotion is going to follow, because we saw that Kim was tweeting, you know, Golden Boy, DAZN. Well, they have a good relationship with 360, and they don't really have a big promotion. They were also on HBO, and that makes me wonder: is 360 going to jump on DAZN? If Golden Boy's on DAZN, Triple G goes on DAZN, I mean, like, that would be some serious shit for the casuals to kind of tune in. So I think this is a big deal, but we have to play out and see who the next move is going to follow, because Canelo's on there. I think that's really where it's going to be the seismic wave. Because the next person's Triple G, well then shit, we might start getting some serious people on DAZN now.
I agree, and just sort of stitching back to the whole like Combates Americas sort of like cross promotional angle. Demetrius Andrade was at the Bellator card, both of them, I believe, this last weekend. Demetrius Andrade obviously is a boxer. He's not an MMA fighter, but he's under the DAZN umbrella, just like Bellator is. So he's obviously at the Bellator events, and guess what? They interview Demetrius Andrade. They pan to him a bunch of times. And you're going to sort of get that same effect with Canelo and Combates Americas. Again, that's sort of more better for Combates than Canelo. But it's just the overall idea that DAZN is putting on an entire sort of, wing of their content that is all fight-oriented. And it's all sort of bleeds into each other. It all promotes each other. I think that's sort of a smart way to do it. Where they don't have like their clear boxing department and MMA department. You know, Ak and Barak are going to the Bellator events. They're going to the, boxing events. I think that's smart. And plus, like you've said, like everyone is saying, this is a massive move. If they get Triple G, if all these dominoes start falling, DAZN went from the C player in the network war to really being a massive competitor to ESPN and the Showtime Fox conglomerate with PBC. Definitely gonna be interesting to see, like, you know, a couple years from now, what it all sort of falls out to be, what all happens. Any last sort of thoughts on either the Canelo stuff or anything else, Ron?
Oh yeah. So just closing out the Canelo conversation. I mean, like I said, it's really just going to be interesting what follows up after this. And you know, I think Eddie has a couple stronghold on a couple divisions. Some divisions are weak, like welterweight. He doesn't have a good hold on. But you know, he's starting to pick up. You know, you got a heavyweight star. You got the undisputed cruiserweight. You know, he's got middleweight pretty much on lock. You know, I mean, he's starting to pick these things up. And like I said, if 360 Promotion goes over there and brings a lot of the little guys, Golden Boy has a couple little guys. I mean, I think he can get a big splash now. It's just depending on what follows up. The Bivol and Pascal, you know, it's not a knock on Pascal. I mean, I think Pascal's always been, if he ever lost, he lost to someone good, you know. And I know that he planned on retiring on that so-called fight. I think it was like a prospect with an Egyptian fighter they had on FS1 over here in the States, and he won. So I thought that was kind of like his farewell fight, like, I'm going to be done. But then he fought again, and I think now at that point he's kind of at the itch when a lot of fighters have, where they keep winning and now they maybe can do it. Bivol needs to beat this guy no worse, but hopefully better than Leader Alvarez did, because at that point, if you show any type of problems with Pascal, Pascal's a great name, someone great to have, but you have someone, Leader Alvarez, who did it allegedly better. If you do it worse, that's bad for you, because now if a Leader Alvarez goes out and sparks Kovalev a second time, and then you're out here giving second performance to his leftovers, it's going to be a bad look for Bivol. So Bivol needs to get him out. I think he's going to get him out fighting. I think he just had problems with Chilembe because it was a stylistic matchup where he was unfamiliar with. But I think Pascal is going to be someone who's going to beat up. He's going to be stronger. I mean, his best win was against Sullivan Barrera, and I think that he's just going to fine-tune some things and get Pascal out. So HBO is definitely putting their last little touches together and getting out their stuff. I'm curious where Bivol goes. If Bivol goes to DAZN, that's going to be a plus for DAZN again. You're going to have more leverage into these type of championship fights and where they go. And then Eddie Alvarez, I got the most respect for that dude, simply just because the fact that dude got every damn belt out there, man. I really think he just went to one championship because he says, I never fought in one championship. I really just think that's the reason. Like, he probably could have went to Bellator, but he's like, I already got a belt there. I got a belt everywhere, man. They call him the Underground King. He probably got all type of weird looking trophies and weird little belts that are falling apart and too cheap. Like, that dude collects all the belts. So I think that's where his aspirations is. I mean, one championship, from my understanding, is doing really good. Really, really great. They just picked up Rung Vasai's last two fights, you know. They have a great market for Muay Thai, MMA. They have the biggest Asian promotional. So, I mean, that's going to build him up big time over there. So if he's out there kicking Asians' ass and then he becomes the one championship out there, I don't think anyone's going to dispute this dude, Eddie Alvarez. It's just like a fighting king, you know?
And also, I know this hasn't really been stated, and it's a narrative that it's one that I'm not, well-versed in. But obviously, for those that don't know, Ryzen FF over in Japan, sort of the rebirth of Pride FC, they've been holding down Japan, and one championship has never really gone there. But now one championship is having a Japanese event, obviously in Japan. It's going to be interesting to see them battle it out in the Asian market. I know for maybe a lot of U.S. fans or even UK listeners, because that's 99% of our listeners is either from the U.S. or from the UK. That doesn't matter to us really, but that's a massive market over there. There are literally billions of people in Asia, and Japan is really the market leader in combat sports over there, in my opinion. And plus, just a gigantic market. We're talking about Inoue being watched by over 5 million people in one region of Japan. You know, like I think Rayo Moreta got watched by tens of millions of people on Fuji TV in his last fight. It's a massive market you can go to. And if One Championship, like you said, it's probably the biggest Asian promotional company in terms of MMA right now. If they go into Japan and go after Ryzen, they're probably going to win. I think they have the better infrastructure. They're the better overall organization. They put out more consistent content. It's going to be interesting to see that sort of Asian battle over there by the promoters.
I think when they did the Rungvisai fight, they had astronomical views for the viewership over in Asia, especially Thailand, obviously, because Rungvisai is from there. But I think this is a great move. You know, Singapore is definitely not a cheap place to live. They definitely do a lot of events. They definitely get a lot of tourists to come to between Singapore, a lot of money. And in addition to that, I think it's great for their brand. They're trying to build up Angela Lee too. So they have kind of some stars in the making. And, you know, if they want to continue to build their stars and not have their stars go to other promotions like UFC or, you know, Invicta, stuff like that, this is a great way to bring people in, just like Bellator did, so that, you know, you get like Pico, who doesn't probably want to leave. I can't remember the other guy, but you know, Bellator is starting to have a pretty interesting roster that people was actually tuning in just to see them fight, you know? So if One Championship wants to compete, they got to get a couple stars, cash out a little bit, and get the casual fans, people who know who Eddie Alvarez, to go watch the whole card and be actually entertained. Because I can't remember what drew me to One Championship, but when it did, I was like, oh, damn, this is kind of cool. There's like some Muay Thai, some kickboxing, some boxing. What's going on?
Well, maybe Cam might correct me on this, but I think One Championship used to be One FC, and then they went through a rebrand.
Yeah, they did.
And I forget what One FC really had, but they had some big pieces as well. They sort of kept the Brandon Vera, you know, those fights, and that's fine. Ben Askren was obviously a big fixture of their rebrand, but they've never really sort of appealed to the U.S. market in any way. You know, Ryzen does a little bit more because it's still run by the old Pride owners. So they still, you know, cater a little bit to the U.S. market in some way or shape and form. One Championship has never cared about that. And actually, in terms of long-term business strategy, I think that's smarter. I think that's why One will win out in the sort of Asian battle between them and Ryzen, because they don't care about the U.S. In order to win the Asian market war, the U.S. market has no bearing on that. However, Eddie Alvarez, even though he's obviously a former UFC champion, he's, you know, a Bellator fighter, former Bellator champion, he made his mark over in Japan. Eddie Alvarez is massively known in the Japanese MMA circle. So that, I think, is why they got Eddie. It's not really about getting U.S. fans, Ron. It's about getting the Japanese casual fans that have always loved Eddie Alvarez, who's fought Aoki how many times. You know, that is their angle.
But that's true. I definitely feel like when I watch, it's very authentic towards the Asian market.
Mm-hmm.
All the countries they choose, I mean, you get a wide variety of all the Asian countries. Like, you don't get like Japan and Japan and maybe like China. Like, you get all you get the Thailand, you get the Philippines, you get Koreans, like Malaysia, you get all the smaller Asian countries, and they do the whole promotional backing of the fighters. You get to learn about them, get invested. And the whole Eddie Alvarez, I mean, I think it's slightly between those two moves, but everyone in the U.S. definitely knows Eddie Alvarez, especially because the Conor McGregor. And if you watch the Justin Gaethje fights and the Dustin Poirier, like, you're like, man, this dude is in these violent fights. If you tuned into him after the Conor McGregor, then you see where he goes. Like, I think MMA's reporting Eddie Alvarez going to One Championship, the most I've ever seen One Championship ever on recent MMA news, outside of maybe Little Angela Lee and Rungvisai, but that's more boxing, even boxing coverage. This is the most I've seen One Championship in headlines. And they were preluding this weeks ago, you know, saying like, oh, Eddie Alvarez might go to One Championship, like constantly pumping out, and now he's finally there. So I think it's a win-win for both, and I think he just wants to collect another yo-yo.
I definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying. I just think that, yes, obviously it's good publicity and PR to have Eddie Alvarez, who is a former Conor McGregor opponent, that did a great buy rate, first ever UFC event in New York City. Those are all factors in a way, but I don't think it's the major contributing factor as to why they wanted Eddie Alvarez. I think his connection to the Japanese MMA history, his connection to Shudo, his connection to those organizations, and them obviously now having a event scheduled in Japan, I think those are the correlating factors that really led to obviously Eddie picking up, them trying to get Eddie. But you're absolutely right about Eddie wanting to go over there. He just wants that belt because it's a belt he hasn't had yet. And Cam made, the obvious point. They're paying him probably a ton of money. So salute to Eddie Alvarez picking up that bag. Ron, any other points or takes about anything that happened today in the news cycle?
No, we just have to play the waiting game now. I know Lance Pugmire said things that this is a deal of 3. They were saying
No. Let me clarify because let me get it up because I have it right here. Thank you for reminding me about that.
I couldn't tell. I just skimmed through it, but I didn't know if this was one of the 3. But he also credited saying that Keith usually don't put out.
So if you're watching on YouTube, obviously you can see it. Lance Pugmire going on Twitter and saying, "I'm told the Canelo DAZN talks are one of 3 options the fighters and Oscar are mulling over." That in terms of there's 2 other networks or streaming apps or whatever trying to get Canelo. So Lance is saying that it's not a done deal yet for Golden Boy and DAZN. However, he goes on to say, but no reason to doubt my friend Keith Adek report that's where Canelo is headed, and I'd expect Golden Boy boxing fights to follow in a package. So Lance is saying that he cannot, or at least he's being told it's not confirmed yet, but he is not doubting Keith. And even Keith himself didn't say it was confirmed. He said that's what he's being told. I still think it's pretty safe to say that even though Lance is not giving the full sign-off on it, he's saying, I don't doubt Keith Adek, just like I do. I don't doubt Keith Adek. I don't think any of us here are doubting Keith Adek's reporting, though it's still not confirmed. This is still very much a evolving news story as the day goes on, as tomorrow goes on. And I think even Keith said there's a news conference tomorrow where the official announcement will probably happen. And I would expect neither DAZN or Golden Boy to announce anything until that event.
Yeah, and that's what pretty much I think that's where they're going to probably officially draw everything up with all their promotions and stuff. So I would say tomorrow will be pretty much Eddie smiling. And it'll be interesting to see Eddie and Oscar if it works out for them to be together. That would be, just keep your eyes on that. But yeah, that's it. That's all my final thoughts, man.
Thank you, Ron. Always nice to have you on. Cam, I think we're about to head out of here. Any sort of final thoughts, wrap up, plugs, anything you want to sort of get off your chest before we head out? And tomorrow will be our preview show. So any of the weekend's fights coming up, we will preview tomorrow live on YouTube, same time as always.
Yeah, I'll be on for that. Obviously, this one's a bit short notice. So I was answering my Chappelle, but I'll definitely be on this one, on tomorrow one on time. Yeah, like I said, just follow me on Twitter, @CameronGillen_. I'm just always on there. A lot of people interact with my tweets, so if you want to talk boxing with people who actually aren't biased and racially agendered, then hit me up on Twitter and just kind of get involved. But yeah, if not, cheers to the callers. The callers are really good tonight. So yeah, man, good show.
Yeah, always great to have callers. I'm definitely sorry about Blog Talk not working. We did have a lot more callers on Blog Talk that obviously just wasn't working. They weren't hearing us on their end. That does happen sometimes. Again, if you do want to call in, like Ron, who was trying to call in on Blog Talk, but you still want to call in, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com. That info is right at the bottom of your screen. Email me there. I can send you a free international or domestic call-in link, absolutely free and permanent as well, to make it easier for you, the listener. But I am Matt, the Hipster Hunter. Like Cam said, like I have said, we'll be back tomorrow, same time as always. I believe we have the Demetrius Andrade, Katan Dokwa fight for the WBO interim belt. No, sorry, not interim, full WBO belt. And plus some other fights. I can't really think off the top of my head what's the schedule, but that's okay. That's for tomorrow's show. Be back tomorrow. Peace.